So, welcome to our friendly kitchen here, and we're hoping that Chef Holy Biscuits will make an appearance anytime soon. He tends to just kind of pop in whenever. So, we're going to do a little segment called The Care and Feeding of the Happy Dragon. That's right. Science has now proven you are 1 trillion cells that belong to you, human, and 10 trillion cells that are actually belong to the bacteria. And if you're looking at the DNA content, the molecules themselves, some are like 100 times more bacterial DNA than you have that you call your own. So, why not get all that happy dragon on your side? You want to wake up the happy dragon and feed the happy dragon. And what do happy dragons like to eat? Fermented foods, of course. They're cultured. So I am a self-proclaimed fermentationist. That's right, and I'm going to show you how to make cultured vegetables. They're actually quite simple. There are a few tricks. So I'm going to let you in on the tricks part of it. First off, you have to start with a clean counter. And it's because your vegetables are not going to be cooked. They're fermented, of course. So you don't want to introduce bacteria that may spoil the whole thing. So first thing you do is you get a separate cutting board for any of your chicken or meats, and always use this designated cutting board for those products, and never use them for chopping your vegetables. Okay, they carry bacteria that needs to be cooked off. If you're not cooking anything, don't use this board. Now then, I use just, well, isn't going to play, vinegar and a little vinegar first, and then food grade hydrogen peroxide, and that actually disinfects your whole counter area. And you don't use antibacterial products. They actually use chemicals in them that you don't want to be ingesting. So hydrogen peroxide, vinegar, works like a charm. Now then, the most important thing is you get yourself a pot, good size pot, like a good soup size pot. None of the measurements are essential. I go to the farmer's market, get whatever organic produce that they have, and I bring it home. And what I usually put in my vegetables, I try to vary it, but I also put in things that I know are good for me, but I don't really like to just eat them, like beets. Sometimes I'll put in a sweet potato, different things. Today I have cauliflower, it's not something I usually eat. And a cucumber from our garden even. Okay, and I've got carrots and celery. They're just standbys, but we don't seem to eat them very often, so they make wonderful, once they're chopped up, make wonderful vegetables to be fermented. And then, this is the trick part, you get a cabbage. I like the purple cabbage, although you can use green. I like the purple because I like purple food. I don't know what it is. It just makes me feel good. Something about purple food. Like, wow, isn't that just so pretty? Like, whoa, when do you get to eat purple food? So, what you want to do then is just peel the top layer rather somewhat carefully, because what you want is these rolls, the leaves, to roll off. And you're going to save all of the outer leaves to finish our fermentation in the jars. So this is kind of an essential part of the process here. And there's nothing particular, you know, you don't have to be exacting. It'll all work eventually. Wow, some of it's tougher than others. And then you kind of you keep peeling as long as you can still peel it off, and when it gets to the point where it's really not wanting to peel any longer, right about there is going to be a good place to end it. And you're going to use all of that later. And then this part is going to get chopped with everything else. Now, the chopping. Okay, here's the deal. If you're going to be standing here chopping vegetables, this is the time-consuming part of it. There's nothing particular about how they're chopped. You just chop them into what you would consider bite-sized pieces. So, they're going to get softer as they ferment, but nonetheless, they're going to be about the same size for a bite that they are when you chop them. So that's the only particular thing. And then you wash off your vegetables, but don't peel them. There's a lot of nutrition in the peels, and because these are all organic, they pick up their own bacteria from the soil. That's a good thing. This is part of what we've lost in our culture, is the good soil bacteria and the good bacteria that's actually feeding your gut biome. So, peels on, good thing. You want to chop off the ends, and just chop off the ends of the celery as well. And other than that, you basically just chop everything, leaving off the cores. And then this we're going to use for the what do I call it? The brew. It's got the bacteria that we're going to get into a little brew for the next about 20 minutes. And we're going to just put a little cultured water in here. This is RO water that's been tumbled with the woo-wee, so it is structured water. And we're going to get our fermentation. Now this I get is called Kinetic Culture Starter, and I get this from Dr. Mercola. And basically, I also, from the last batch I did, so this is a new batch, and as you can see, I've got the cabbage roll on top. So when I open them, the cabbage roll is still edible, but what I do is I put them inside of this jar that now, when I go through, a jar a week. So I eat one of these every week. So by the end of the month, I've got my 4 jars full of the cabbage roll on top. Now this is going to go into our brew along with, and so this is all the bacteria from the last batch. And why you want to do that is because the bacteria are evolving. So from whatever this batch they've evolved to, you put them in so they begin to feed the new batch. Now, technically, that's all you need. You don't need the starting vegetable culture again once you've established a really good fermentation. However, the reason that I use this kinetic culture is because this is actually specially formulated and designed for to produce bacteria that produce a lot of K2. Now, it's really hard to get enough K2 vitamin in the foods you consume because they aren't in the soils. This, however, the bacteria actually produce the K2, and at some extraordinary rate, like a crazy amount. So for me, it's worth it. It's worth it if you're going to go to the trouble of fermenting all of these foods. it's worth it to make sure you've got a lot of really good K2 in there. Okay, and then what you do is you just take the water, add a little honey, or in this case I'm just using organic maple syrup. You just want something a little bit sweet, a little bit of food, because the bacteria are now going to wake up. And I'm just going to add about a 1/4 teaspoon. Okay, little happy bacteria. Whee! Oh boy! Oh, look at that food! Yay! Whee! Oh, we're going swimming too! Oh boy! Yay! Okay, guys. And you all get along. Hey, wow, we're having a great time. Okay, good. All right. So that takes about 20 minutes, just letting them wake up, have a good time. They're having a party. They're good. And now, all of these need to be chopped. So I'm going to actually not like to chop see these shoes? Great shoes. Can you see these shoes? Great shoes. Not good for chopping. So I'm going to get let's just say I'm going to get an easier way to chop the vegetables, and then we'll come back. Okay, that was a lot of work chopping all those vegetables, but it is so worth it, believe me. So now our next step, once everything's chopped, and this is what it looks like when it, oh my gracious, when it's full. Now I have one more little secret, that this is kind of a just in case. Organic vegetable medley that will keep for soups and other kind of dishes. And so, when you're first starting out and you're not quite sure how much of things to put in where, I just get this at Costco, make sure it's organic, and then you can just add in some of this just to kind of fill it out. And we basically don't eat corn, and especially don't eat corn if it isn't organic, because that means it's GMO. And you definitely do not want to eat anything GMO, particularly corn, because it's making an insecticide inside the corn. You cannot wash it off. And once you eat the corn, that insecticide does harm your microbiome. And what they say about it is that it's safe for humans because it disturbs the shikimate pathway in the bacteria that are being killed inside the corn. But guess what? What they say is that humans don't have a shikimate pathway in any of their organs. True. What they do have, though, is bacteria, the microbiome in your gut, that does have a shikimate pathway. And if that's destroyed, it means that bacteria that is taking your food and breaking it down so that you can actually absorb the nutrition, that whole system is disturbed. And your microbiome is an amazingly important part of you. In fact, it's more than you. It is your happy dragon. So Karen, feeding of the happy dragon, eat organic. And if you can't find organic, at least eat non-GMO. Okay. So, now to the secret sauce. So this is the cucumber from my garden, fresh from the garden. And this is the maple syrup and the culture starter that's been sitting. And so it's ready to go. And then what I do is knows that you can see this is a jar that I had in the refrigerator. It's all been fermented and ready to go. And this is what the top of it looks like when you see. And when I open it to eat it, then I take the top that you'll see when we do the cabbage roll on top, and I put it in here, and then that becomes, I think I'm gonna have to do this in 2 batches. And I don't like to spin it too much because, see what I mean? Okay, you guys are all right. It's all done until next time we do this. And so now this is all of your good bacteria that has had a chance to evolve into higher happy forms of dragon food. What? Yeah, don't tell anybody. Oh, come on, Goddessa, let us out of here. Come on. Oh, come on, guys. You'll go to a happy place. Whoa, what a rush. Oh, man. Okay, guys, you all right? See, all right, okay. Okay, you're going to like this because you're going to go to a really happy place now. Look at all that sugar. Wow. Happy bacteria, yay! All right, and then I'm just stirring in the cultured, awakened happy bacteria in with the bacteria from the last batch. Oh, you guys make friends. Okay. Okay, then this is where it gets really fun. Now these are the size jars that I normally use, and it's really any glass jar that you want to save. Doesn't take fancy equipment here. And usually that makes about 4. And these are the jars that I started with. And the problem with them is that they just, by the time you put a cabbage roll on, you're taking up a lot of the space in these jars. But when I first started, and I actually recommend when you first start, go slowly, because this is really potent food. And your digestive system may not be used to it. So you want to give it a chance to feed the happy dragon and let those good bacteria start multiplying and increasing your digestion and your digestive juices as well. And so, but these are great little jars to have for if you need to fill up more, if you have more mixture. Okay, this is where wedding ring comes off. And get the hands good and washed, because this gets to be the fun part. Oh boy, oh, man, that's heavy. And then what you do is you just get to play. Like, remember when you were a kid? And you just got to get as goopy and messy as you wanted? Like, wow, this is so much fun. Look at that. Whoops. And it usually does go whoops all over the place as well. And so what you're doing is just stirring it up as best you can so that it gets fairly well distributed. And there's nothing real, precise about any of this. Whoops. And that's usually what happens too, is that I end up being like the Swedish baker on the Muppets. Who's my favorite Muppet character? And then all you would see when you saw the Swedish bakers, things flying every which direction. And there you have it. And then my friend Kathy Robes of Robes Family Farms, came over and we were fermenting vegetables, and she said, what you need is a canning funnel. I've never canned. I didn't know of such a thing. She says, oh yeah, this would go really fast if you had a canning funnel that you could just like hoof-de-foo-na-hoo-na. And I said, yeah, but you know, the hoof-de-foo-na-hoo-na, when it all goes all over the place, somehow to me that's very fun. It's like all the things you weren't supposed to do when you were a kid, like make a mess of the kitchen. But look how pretty it is. See all those colors? Doesn't it just make you happy? Yeah, it's that happy dragon. And then you push it down. So you want to get it below the shoulder. And then we're going to finish filling up all 4 of these. Oh, that's so much fun. All right, and then we still have some left over. Once you've got your jars at least roughly full, then you're going to come back with, I think it's a juicer, but it's a wooden gizmo. Only Chef Holy Biscuits has every kitchen gadget known to mankind, I think. So then what you do is you're tamping it down, and you're just kind of making sure you don't have any real big air bubbles in here, but it tamps down quite a bit. So you can see how much is left in the pan, and we'll get that in here easily as soon as I get some mussels. Okay, and now that you've got room again on the top, you can go ahead and refill from just what's remaining. And this time when you tamp it down, you want to just give it some room to put the cabbage leaf on top. And then just take the extra juice and then just kind of distribute it on the top. Okay. And now, reversed osmosis water that has been structured with the woo-wee and blessed. So next time in the kitchen we'll show you how we structure and bless the water. And then what I'm doing is just adding the water just so that it has enough liquid to it. And it'll percolate down. Okay, and then I need a sip of water. This is actually King Rundle, who is the king of the castle. And this was given to us on our wedding day by Gail. And it says, restrictions apply. See spouse for details. So there you go. Now, here's the trick part. You just take your cabbage roll and you're going to smoosh the cabbage leaf in there just so it has room to expand. The cabbage leaf is going to expand as the vegetables start fermenting, they'll start collapsing, and this will hold it underneath the lid so it stays underneath the liquid. You don't have to be terribly precise about it. And then when you close the lid, don't crank down on it, just close it, don't really tighten it. You want it to be somewhat loose because then you're going to rinse it off. And put it in a tray, and any tray will do. You just catch it in the drips, because as it outgasses, it will overflow with the liquid. And which is fine because all the vegetables are staying underneath your cabbage roll. So now you have your vegetables, and what I do is just leave them sit on the counter for 5 to 7 days. And when you're first starting, probably 5 days, because they do get more sour and vinegary. And for me, that was an acquired taste. I don't like the smell of vinegar, I don't like the taste of vinegar, so I had to get used to them. And I did it by just 1 jar a week, just a couple tablespoons. And what I did was just, I'm feeding the happy dragon, I'm feeding the happy dragon. And I use that as my mantra just to get the vegetables into me. And then what I discovered is the happy dragon started waking up and going, where are my cultured vegetables? To the point now where that's all I will eat in the mornings. I will now go through an entire jar in a week, and so it usually ends up about a cup of vegetables, fermented vegetables, to which my personal taste, I use about a tablespoon of almond butter and a tablespoon of organic strawberry jam. And just to give it a little more flavor, cut down the vinegary part for me. And I also add about maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon of Celtic sea salt, also optional. I do not put salt into the vegetables while they're fermenting. You don't want to pickle your bacteria. And I don't add garlic because you're going to leave it sit on the counter for 5 to 7 days. You don't want to be smelling garlic that long. And it overpowers most everything. So I don't put any flavoring in. I will occasionally put in oregano or basil, just whatever I feel drawn to put in as far as any kind of spices. We did put an onion in this, just because we had one. Again, personal choice. Just you decide what really is calling to you. I haven't gotten quite brave enough yet to put in a jalapeno, but we do have jalapenos that are growing out in our garden, so they're, to me, a little too hot. I'm trying to get what do you call it, schooled up to be more southwestern hardcore with the hot chili powder Mexican foods. I'm getting there. That to me is an acquired taste too. So however you'd like to do it, leave them sit for 5 to 7 days and then put them in the refrigerator. They last for months. And just when you take them out, you will take out the cabbage roll. You can eat it or do what I do and just save it for the next batch. And the only thing is, occasionally you'll see that they may get go off a bit, but it looks different, and you'll notice that it looks different. Otherwise, they're perfectly beautiful, and they turn a little more purple from the purple cabbage, and they're just a thing to behold to me. See, isn't that pretty? Just makes me happy, and it makes for a happy dragon. That's the important thing. And once you get your dragon happy, the happy dragon wakes up and says,
I want this for breakfast. I don't want sugar.
And I was the first one who would say, no way will I cut out my sugar cravings. No, other people, not me, but lo and behold, sugar has no appeal anymore because your happy dragon don't feed off of sugar. That's the bad dragon that you're got most of your bacteria that are not being helpful and useful to you are what craves the sugar and carbohydrates and things that it's being fed. But if you feed a happy dragon, it wants good, healthy food. Its idea of good tasting food is, does it have life force? Is it fresh? Is it wow? Is it feeding, nurturing, nourishing my soul? That's the happy dragon. So there you have it. Care and feeding of the happy dragon. After about 5 days out to 7 days, put them in the refrigerator, use them, and the smaller jars are great for giving these to friends because they'll start wanting to know, what are you doing? You look so great. How is that? What are you eating? And you won't have a weight problem once you start eating cultured vegetables. The happy dragon takes care of itself. Okay then. Enjoy. Bye.